Flying Joe. Know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 688, The Norseman. I keep wanting to call it North. I kept wanting to call it
I mean,
the
you're not
Norseman.
wrong.
I mean, he's a Viking.
Yeah.
Why make it harder than it has to be, Eggers? Like, come on. Like,
I agree with you.
so...
And they reference all of the Norse gods as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So, like, just call it the Norseman. You're fancy pants. Be fancy.
Be fancy.
Yeah. So, I guess let's go around the table and everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
And this is Tom. Before we get started, shameless plugs. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. While you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a rating and review.
We did go up in reviews.
Woohoo!
Yes, we're up to 287.
Look at that. Especially if you like us. If you don't like us,
You won't be the last.
leave a rating and review for Binge Movies. So that seems appropriate. Go do that. Yeah. I'm going to start a skirmish. That's
Great, because I have to do podcasts with that guy, so please don't.
Yeah, me too. I want no part in this.
They invited me on, but I couldn't do it. Well, I could have done it, but I would have been worthless. So
What was it?
They wanted me to do a Ray Harryhausen thing, and I was just like, and I would have totally done it, except I was like, you know what? I never watched them as a kid. I think they thought because of my age,
Sure.
that those were on the local independent stations all the time, and they were. I just never really watched them. They just weren't my thing. It's amazing what that guy could do, but the movies themselves, I was just like, I don't know.
Jason and the Argonauts is where it was at.
Yeah, and so I was just like, I don't have any thoughts on it other than like, yeah, that looks cool. So
Riveting.
yeah, right. So that's so Binge Movies. If you just haven't recorded that yet, here's me for your show. Yeah, it was cool. There you go.
That's it.
You have my
just
permission
loop it.
to use that. You can just drop it in whenever you want.
Oh, and special guest commentator. Tom
Yeah,
O'Keefe from
right.
Real Spoilers.
You want to talk about the Marx Brothers or something? Adam Costello.
That's where he needs to get you.
I'm a guy.
Yeah.
So, where was I in the shameless plugs? Oh, yeah, we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. Also, if you want to help out the show and not spend a dime, you can do that by sharing an episode on your social media platform. So people who were kind enough to share an episode this week: Librarian Cynthia, Tammy Sherman Powers, Julianne Jordan, Heather Sachs, Gabriel Lugo, Chris Sanders, Chris Falls, Tom Dowdy, Glenn Cougar Mellenbrewer, Travis Tewitt, Mike and Oscar, Vertigay 314, Jackson Tom 0318, Lila 20221. Did I just give out her passcode?
Maybe.
Yeah. Nostalgia Cast,
Ampersand.
Yeah. Minorities Report, Invasion of the Remake, Spoiler Piece Theater, Cinema Recall, The Manic Pixie Weirdo Podcast, In Session Film, Crooked Table Productions, Chris Williams, Binge Movies, Ryan Terry from the Forza Crowd Podcast, Ron K. Jeffries, B. Garner, Ronnie Castle, Geek to Me Radio, Feel and Film, and Matt Neglia. So
a bunch of new ones in there.
Yeah, there's quite a few. So thank you very much for doing that. We greatly appreciate it. And finally, if you would like to help us and spend more than time.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Yeah, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/Real Spoilers. And for $5 a month, you get all sorts of bonus content. And you help us out.
Yeah.
And that is greatly appreciated.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacres are done. They are finished. I've got an interview with Matt McCarthy, who is he was a writer for Conan O'Brien. He is the co-star of How We Roll, now on TBS, I believe, with
Pete Holmes.
Pete Holmes, yeah. And he actually tells a really good story about his relationship. He and Pete, he also did a lot of the Batman like college humor shorts with Pete Holmes.
Okay.
And they were buddies in college, and he tells a really touching story about his relationship with Pete Holmes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I recorded another one. We did a little recasting of since WB apparently is going to reboot their entire DC film franchise.
Point, I mean, at this point,
I don't think they have a choice.
We'll see.
So Brian Spath and I sat
movie
down.
boyfriend.
My movie boyfriend.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got to tell you, maybe real life boyfriend. On the show.
Is this, wait a minute, special announcement.
I did say on the show, I think I talked to him more than I talked to my wife. Like the amount of conversations that go on. But we recasted Superman and did our own little versions of what that movie could look like.
Okay.
Interesting.
There you go.
So anyway, there's all that. I guess let's dig into the Norseman.
I love this movie.
Do you?
Yeah.
It's a cool movie.
I think this was it's interesting. So this is A24 as well, right?
No.
Oh,
No.
It's not?
No.
Oh, well then
You
that totally negates what I was going to say.
A24 doesn't have $70 million.
I guess that's true.
If A24
That's right.
spent $70 million on movies, you'd have 10 movies.
That's right. That's
I
right.
heard
I
somewhere 90 million on this. Because
Oh, I
I think
thought
they
I-
read. I think they.
Wikipedia says 70 to 90.
Yeah. So
So,
the
yeah.
estimate. That's some people say.
So here's the deal. I was going to spoil this right out of the gate. So he dies. So what? Like all the commercials are like the Northman, the legend begins,
Right.
and then quickly ends.
Very quickly. Yeah. He gets about 30 minutes of legend,
Right.
and then that's about it.
Like
Yeah.
the legend begins and then ends.
I feel like that's kind of what they did with him in Tarzan.
Yeah.
They're like, the legend begins, but we're never doing another one of these
Well,
movies.
they were wanting to.
That's
if
true.
it had not been a complete and utter snooze,
That's fair.
They would
That's
have.
fair,
There
yeah.
would have been lots more Tarzan.
They couldn't
movies.
wait.
But that's what mythology in these tales are, though. Is there's all these legendary people, and a lot of times they do die, but their story lives on.
Sure,
forever.
they didn't have like franchises back then.
Yeah.
So,
It was
but-
like they talk about the warrior that went and got his revenge, and then romantically died at the end.
Yeah.
But then his bloodline carries on, and
But it would have been so easy to like leave this open.
yeah.
And they clearly made a choice not to.
Well, but Robert Eggers.
Yeah, I don't think
isn't-
Robert. Yeah, I think they're trying to make a franchise
This
out
still
of this.
is his movie.
but then why do they say the legend begins? Like,
Well, because it's the. I mean, this is a tale from 1200. You know,
Right.
this is the story that inspired Hamlet. So
Is that right?
Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's
So
his
like,
name is Amleth.
Oh, that makes
It's-
sense.
take the H and move it to the end. Literally, that's what Shakespeare did: is moved the H
yeah.
to the front.
Maybe he's not as slick as we thought he was.
Yeah.
No, fooled you.
That's true.
Yeah.
It doesn't
But,
take much, Kevin. You know that.
But still, like in the when you're running a commercial in Teen Mom, I don't think the crowd is going, oh well, this probably refers to the fact that this was originally Viking in legend folklore, and
it's the
they're-
basis for Hamlet.
They're like, oh, they're going to try and make a bunch of these. Maybe I'll go check it out.
But that's what it is. It's just marketing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah,
But
they-
it's like that's a pretty big lie. Like
Right.
I get that marketing like tries to dress things up. I mean, I do it for a living, but like that's pretty sleazy. That's
Yeah, that's fair.
you know damn good and well you can't make another one of these.
Oh yeah. Well,
Like,
I guess you
well, 'cause
could.
kids.
But
Yeah,
that's
his
not-
son.
I mean,
Why not? I mean,
but that's
all
not
they
the
have-
legend beginning. That's like that's the
But
legend
I-
begin makes
so
it
I-
sound like. I mean, it's called the Northman. It's not called the Northman and Family,
The Northman and Son.
right?
Northman and Sons.
Northman
that's
and
their new
Sons.
business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. The new
It
show on
sounds like-
TBS.
Yeah, Northman and Son sounds like you would get like a suit tailored there.
Yeah, right.
That is true though. Like
Suit
with,
of armor.
with Hercules or Thor,
Right.
like there's
There's a
many
bunch.
many stories about their.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
This
fair.
guy's pretty much just got the one. He's one and done.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
But if
I
you
like it.
know Hamlet, though, which is certainly the most famous Shakespeare. I mean, he dies too. Like that's the story.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, okay, but Robert Eggers didn't know that this was Hamlet.
Did he
Robert
say that?
Eggers didn't know.
He
I
had to have
listened
known.
to a podcast with him. He was
Is
on
that
Mark
right?
Maron, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't even realize it was doing Hamlet
Did
until."
Marin let him talk?
And his parents were Shakespearean. His dad was like a Shakespearean professor,
Oh,
and
that's
he
funny.
hadn't connected the
Oh, that's
dots.
so weird.
Yeah, and so
But he knew he was using the story that inspired Hamlet, though.
no, I don't think he did. That's not certainly not the way it sounded when I listened to the podcast.
But it follows that story so closely. Like,
Or maybe he was such a punk as a kid that he was like, I'm not even gonna pay
No,
attention
he said he did
to
lots
anything.
of plays and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
and he hung out with like artsy fartsy people.
Well,
so
then I got nothing.
I'd be interested to see how the average person reacts to this movie because you remember those. Well, you don't
well,
remember.
it got a B cinema score, which is low for cinema score.
Yeah, because I think what is probably happening. Do you remember commercials for Reese's peanut butter cups?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, you got chocolate, my peanut butter.
Sure.
Mhm.
This is like,
This is Officer Reese's.
yeah, this is like,
Yeah.
you got action movie in my art house.
That I
No,
gotta
you
tell
got
you,
art house in my action
that's
movie.
exactly
I- and
why
I
I
think
thought
both-
this was A24.
I think both groups are going to walk out going, well, that was dumb.
See, that's
What
the-
was that about?
But this is certainly. I mean, if you know Robert Eggers,
Yeah.
you know this is an
Yeah.
art house movie, and
yeah, but
there's-
I don't think most people know who
I will
Robert
say-
Eggers is.
I will say,
like, his
though-
other two movies probably made what, $15 million
and I think
combined.
the I'm just gonna call it The Witch is a great movie.
The Witch is really good.
Yeah.
Lighthouse.
Lighthouse,
I don't need to see somebody finger a mermaid. Like, I'll just put it out there, Eggers. Like, that's dial it down.
I
Like, hey,
agree.
whatever gets you there, but
Yeah, you
No,
do
thank
you.
you.
That's
Yeah.
fine. Or The Mermaid.
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of The Lighthouse, but I do think
I think Kathy Woods had a great tweet about The Lighthouse.
Oh yeah, she does not like that
And
movie.
she was like, just because it's weird doesn't mean it's good.
that's true.
And I was like,
That's
true.
fair. That's fair.
People say that about me a lot.
But it is like the trailers for this movie do definitely set it up as an action
it's
movie.
it's a royalty-free Conan
Yep,
the Barbarian.
that's exactly
even
it.
though that's in the
I was like,
public
it's in the
but there's
public
good
domain.
action in it.
There's great
Right?
action.
There's
in
good
it.
action.
He and I think
Absolutely.
He is a hulking
well,
beast
it's-
of a man.
It's interesting because as non-charismatic as he was in Tarzan,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, this is the same character basically, and it works.
I think it's
In
because
this?
like Tarzan is so like they were really dancing around the fact that Tarzan is very problematic. It's very
Oh.
white savior.
Yeah.
It's very like, oh, native cultures are barbaric but this white guy can merge these two worlds.
That's fair.
And he'll be like a superhero, even though they didn't have that concept back then, but essentially, you
Yeah.
know. And so it's like Tarzan's got a lot of issues.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
where this is like, oh no, everybody rapes and pillages. It's just
I will say
it's just what we do.
everybody's white.
Well, I mean, look where it's set.
That's true.
that's-
and in Norway, like if the whole thing's set
yeah.
in Norway.
I mean, it's in Iceland.
Most of this takes place in Iceland once he grows up.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
So it's like, I mean,
but
that's,
this is culturally appropriate for the story.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's just a bunch of white guys.
And-
yeah, it's a Viking story.
yeah, and Eggers is all about like, I'm not just gonna have like the hut that they lived in during the Salem witch trials. We're gonna build it in the exact same way. No power tools here.
Right.
And I'm just like, I
right.
guess that's cool. I guess, I mean,
Yeah, the buildings, like when even the doorways and everything, you could
Yeah.
tell it
Oh, yeah.
looked like it was built in the fashion of the
Yeah.
real historical
and he
stuff.
supposedly
Totally.
like built it that same way. Like it's
Yeah.
not.
Wow,
With,
that's
like
cool.
mud and sticks.
Yeah.
But there are
Yikes.
craftsmen out there that like that's their thing, right? So
Yeah.
like they'll do things in a traditional way, not just the design of it, but like they want to use the old methods and
Sure.
all that, which is neat. I mean, that's their thing. They like as a hobby, and their passion is taking that into a business where obviously they can make movie sets and stuff
yeah,
like that. It's
I'm sure the
neat.
6
Well,
people who watch
I
the
was gonna-
making of featurette are going to be in.
I was going to say
all.
they can make movie sets for Robert Eggers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's, but
Well,
it's niche. It's pretty niche.
and other art houses.
I was taken by the fact, like looking at the huts and whatever you want to call it they live in.
Yeah.
they're a step above huts, but they're not quite buildings,
right.
And so at Thanksgiving we went to Plymouth for Thanksgiving dinner because we love America more than you, and so they've recreated the Plymouth village, right?
Oh,
You know?
okay.
And I was really caught off guard by how so that would have been what 800 years later ish,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
and it doesn't look any better, right? It's like I was just like, what was humankind doing? Like 800 years, and like it doesn't look
We couldn't figure it
radically
out.
different than what we see in this movie.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they were
Just put
drinking and
yeah.
murdering and
Just put a
pillaging.
Put a hin-
pillaging takes a lot of time.
Put a hinge on that door or something.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Like I was just like
Little
I'm like,
insulation.
yeah, I'm like the pilgrims were basically living in the same stuff 800 years later. So is Eggers is he a conservative guy? Is he?
Oh, that's a good
No,
question. I
no,
don't think
he's,
so.
He's not. Are you talking about like the appropriation of Viking mythology and stuff like that has been?
No, I actually of the very first shot of the film, I just thought it was interesting that they said AD.
Oh,
Oh,
Remember when we saw Noah?
That's true.
It
What
was-
did they say in Noah?
They said BCE. They used the Common Era
Oh.
coding, and it was definitely like a signal that like it's gonna be Noah, but it's not really gonna be Noah. And
What a crazy movie that was.
yeah,
With rock monsters.
right, yeah, that was weird.
That was weird.
But at least Noah didn't eat a baby
That's fair.
that we know of.
He did that later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just thought with it being AD, I just thought like, is he trying to say something, or is he just like
No,
didn't even,
I don't. Think
No,
so.
I think. I mean, I do think that he's probably. I think when you say AD, to me at least, when instead of saying BCE, you're like, this is.
what's supposed to be nowadays BCE and CE before Common Era and then Common Era, which
Is that really what it is?
yeah, totally,
Oh.
and which I have to say, I think is the stupidest damn thing I've ever heard in my life, because they still use the same delineation point. Because I mean, nobody wants to buy a new calendar.
Then when
Sure,
it's like,
of
so
course.
what's the delineation
so what?
point?
Yeah.
then?
So what have you really done? It's like well, we can't say BC and AD because that's all about Jesus. So we're going to say BC and BC and CE. Oh, so when's year zero? Oh, when
Jesus was
Jesus, when
born.
Jesus was born.
Oh.
Yeah, we're gonna
Oh,
stick.
we
with-
just call him Jim.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
We're
So
gonna-
it's like
we're gonna
they
stick
just-
with that.
They just
Call him
hoping
Jim.
nobody ever asked the question.
Yeah. Well,
the kids today
yes.
are just going to go BC, BCE. Okay, okay.
I
or CE, BC.
You know what the great thing is though is that I don't care enough either way to be upset or offended by
Yeah,
it.
totally.
You know?
Like,
So
I'm
it's
just like whatever, but I still think it's dumb.
No,
It is-
for sure.
It's like, I'm
Yeah.
like, if that's what we're doing, okay. I'm just like, I'm still. I mean, I feel like such an idiot. Still writing 80 on all my checks.
yeah, I know.
And I just
Because you
can't.
just gotta make sure the bank knows.
Right.
Like,
That's
You
not-
just can't
I-
break the habit.
this isn't one of those before. Like
I
you know.
thought mine was bad just by writing 2021.
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm older.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And
yeah.
you probably don't write checks.
Nope.
So there's
Nope, sure
I don't
don't.
think
I don't
anybody
think I
writes
have a
checks.
checkbook.
But what I really appreciate about this film is that Eggers is not trying to romanticize this time
Yeah.
in Viking history and the way they did business. They
Sure.
would go into a village,
Yeah.
kill everybody,
Take
throw
what
the
they
kids
wanted.
in a barn, put it aflame.
Yep.
Like, no, don't want any more revenge stories.
Right.
It's like they sold the people that could work. I mean, and I'm not saying that is a great thing, obviously, today, but like he's not going like, oh, let's paint this picture so you just love Vikings,
Right.
and they're so great. It's like, no, they did some crazy stuff. Like none of
Even
us.
our lead character is doing some crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
totally.
Yeah,
and like
that's-
that's one of my problems with the movie is that it's just like it's just kind of hard to care about anybody.
But I don't think you're supposed to. You're not supposed to be like, yeah, being a Viking is great.
Oh, I know, but but I couldn't really root for anybody. I kind of didn't care what happened to anybody.
Yeah, when your lead character is like tearing his way through a village.
Yeah.
And granted, he's not assaulting anyone sexually. But he is like
But
burning.
he's killing
he's
people
killing people
left and right.
burning
Yeah.
houses, and he's leading the charge of this like wolf clan.
I mean, but I think at that point you just can't watch a movie about Vikings or read a Viking
I think that's
story because
probably
like that's
true.
what they did.
Yeah.
And then it's like if you want to tell that story, and if he were to, again, that's what I mean. If you were to romanticize it
Totally.
or clean it up, sanitize it,
Yeah.
then you would not be painting an accurate
Right.
picture. And so I do really think that he made a time period about this story that took place in this part of the world at this time, and it was like, yeah, that was life, and he's a pretty good guy for that time, but he's still played by the rules of the time, right? So it's
sure.
it's a difficult thing to wrestle with, and I get why that
Yeah.
could be a turnoff. Like
Yeah.
and that's
I
why
feel
they
like
have
they-
it so ripped to be turned back on.
That's right.
So
That's
that you
it.
can kind of balance.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like there's people that like really get in those movies. They're like they think that they would be the Vikings.
Sure
right?
you would.
And I'm like, no, you wouldn't.
You're the villager, bud.
Yeah, like it's like when I watched this movie, I was like, I would last like 3 minutes. Like where they killed the baby, that I would be that baby. Like that's
As a full-grown man,
if I could. I don't even know if I could get there.
that's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
you
I
could
was
live
just
to like 30.
There's no way. I would just like once I saw like how you had to poop, I'd be like, I'm out. I'd be like, does anybody know when we're gonna get raided by Vikings? I just had to poop in a hole.
Yeah,
This is the worst.
How do I even wipe my hands?
With your
What do I-
hands.
what do I do?
they wrote a book about this. It's called Natural Selection.
Yeah. Like I don't know what happened with my lineage that I made it this far. I shouldn't exist.
Well, you natural selection carried us to a time where we don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
We're good.
I mean, yeah, I was watching thinking the same thing. Like, no way would I survive this. Like,
yeah,
we're
when
so
people-
lucky to be alive right now.
I would welcome your axe.
Yeah, when
Right?
people like kind of
I'd be
romanticize.
like, hang on, get a real clean shot.
Yeah, can you just make don't miss?
Yeah,
Yeah.
straight for the jugular.
When
right here.
when people kind of romanticize like Pirates of the Caribbean, or
Yeah.
like shows like Deadwood.
Yeah, see, that's sanitized.
And I was like,
because pirates
oh.
were doing some real nasty
well,
stuff.
not even that, but like the way they lived on those boats.
Sure.
No, thank you.
Whenever I watch a movie from this year, I'm like, my God, what must it have smelled like?
don't even
Well,
Like, I can't even imagine.
just there's Jimmy Fox
You
kind
think-
of tells a joke where it's like his nostrils would fall out.
Yeah,
like
you
that's
think Axe body spray is bad. Like, oh, can't even imagine.
so the plot of this film.
yeah. So
crotch rot would be a step up.
oh,
that would be a step up. You long
please,
for a good crotch rot.
please.
If you're growing up in a
I hope
time
my
like
wife
this.
gets a yeast infection.
Right. Well, that's how they
Not
made-
mine. Not mine currently.
That's how they made bread back then.
That's true. Yeah,
that's how
that's
they
fair.
invented bread.
There are some lines in the podcast, the Patreon episodes that somebody has liked, and I was like, oh, good. Well, at least somebody liked it, and that's along those lines. But yeah, so like we're introduced Ethan Hawke, who it's interesting to see kind of has like this mini resurgence recently. He's on Moon Knight. I think he's got something coming out from Blumhouse, like some horror flick coming out from Blumhouse, and he's like the king of this village.
Wasn't he in The Purge? Isn't it the
Yeah,
one
yeah, he was in the
Hawke
first
in?
one. Yeah,
The good one.
Right. The second one was good.
He's good. Anytime Ethan Hawke
that's
shows
the-
up.
It's not.
No,
Whatever you say next
what
is
was
wrong.
what was the one with Frank Grillo where he's like the Punisher?
I mean, that was like the fourth one.
Oh.
But it was still dumb.
That was all right.
They were,
It was definitely
that
dumb.
first one was
First one was
great.
real good.
That first one was great.
Original concept.
Yeah,
Ethan
like-
Hawke and Lena Headey.
I was down, and I was like, make a million of these, and then I was like, I would like to retract that. statement.
Please don't listen to me.
Yes.
Jason Blum.
Because they left the house. Like, part of what made it cool was like you didn't really know what was going on,
Right.
and it was just this little like
Night of the Living Dead.
yeah, and yeah.
And then they go running around a city, and then
Yeah.
so he's the king, and I kind of missed this opening part. Does he come
comes
back
home
he's
from
coming from
war.
war, and he sees that Nicole Kidman plays his wife, and he decides to his son at this point has kind of reached the age where he's going to take him on this peyote trip. Which is just one of the most bonkers. This movie has all kinds of bonkers
Yeah.
scenes.
Gets
that's-
art house in your action
It
movie.
really does.
Yeah, I mean, they give you a chance to leave if this isn't your jam in the
Yeah.
first.
We're in the first 10
I
minutes.
mean, no one
yeah.
left my theater. I know you were screening; it's a little
Yeah.
different, but no one left my theater, which I'm like, good for these people, because I honestly, this is a movie where
But
if
how
you-
many people really leave a movie 10 minutes in if they paid money for it?
Oh, I mean, I saw reviews online of people saying people left their theater for this.
At the-
Really?
I mean, if you
at
go to
this
this
scene?
looking for an action movie
Oh.
and you go to this art house part, I mean, this
Yeah.
is straight up art house.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So before you get into the action of the movie, so I could see people being like, "This isn't my jam." I mean, I wouldn't do it, but
Yeah.
I do think if people were sold on this being Conan,
well, yeah.
Right.
then you're like, "Oh, what?"
Wait, what's happening?
Where I'm just like, "This is cool."
Yeah, I thought it was super weird, but I was into it. And so
it's basically this ritual. It's like the tree. This is a Norse.
it's the world tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a thing in Norse mythology, and it's the tree, and it's all the lineage of the kings. And he sees Ethan Hawke on there, and there he is, right? And it's the son that carries on.
Well, we should say that they are tripping balls.
Yeah, they're acting like wolves. They're drinking from little dishes.
Yeah, and then it's very weird. So when they come to from this, we should say that the shaman is thank you, Willem Dafoe, who just again was in the Lighthouse,
Lighthouse, yeah.
but also has just some the way they film him and the way they light him, he looks insane.
But,
the best part, I guess that's just how he looks.
Just
though.
one of the but he's one of the most interesting looking.
He's got such a
people out
rubbery
there.
face.
It's the shape of his face.
Yeah.
He's a great person to photograph because
That's true.
he just is so interesting to
Yeah.
look like, and he's a great actor, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, every role he takes
Absolutely.
on, I mean, he gives everything 110%, and he's an actor I love to see show up. And here he's not in it for much, but when he does, I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, and some of them is in it a little bit longer than other
Well, he
parts
makes
of him.
a
He does make
return.
a
surprise.
return, yeah. So they come out of this like hut basically, and they are confronted by Ethan Hawke's brother, who says, "I'm taking over. Like I'm taking all of this. There's nothing you can do about it." And I think at this point, Ethan Hawke tells his son to run.
Yeah. So that character's name is Flornir, and he is played by Claes Bang.
Who I got to tell you, I'm really glad that Thor has not done Thor speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. I they kind of did it in the first.
In the
one.
first one,
they did that faux
yep.
Shakespearean
Yep.
thing, and then they got away from that when they figured out the first two. I guess kind of do that.
Yeah.
And then when they figured out it could be funny, then they
Stopped it.
They stopped it. And
Yeah.
It's like Scarlet Witch dropping her accent. They're like, we don't really need that
never
anymore.
mind.
Let's just.
I hate when I just hate that faux Shakespearean.
Like,
Yeah,
Save it for
Vlormir.
Shakespeare, right?
Yeah, like I don't have a lot of patience.
But this
No.
guy that plays the brother, he's Dracula in the Netflix series Dracula.
Oh, yeah, that movie got canceled.
Well, I did see the movie
Blumhouse-
That's
the
a
Blumhouse
shame.
one, yeah.
That is a shame. He was also in a movie called The Square and The Burnt Orange Heresy.
Okay.
So I don't know. And he's an actor. Like I looked at him, I'm like, he's familiar, but probably from that Dracula show.
I
probably.
couldn't remember anybody's name when it was like Fjord. Like
Skarsgård.
I mean,
Yeah,
Anna
you
Taylor,
don't- I mean,
Anna Taylor
I
Joy.
don't-
That's where.
you're right. Yeah, I'm
Well,
just like,
Olga, right? I mean, that's
hey, I can do an Olga. Yeah,
But once you get to Muselfheim,
right.
I'm
I'm just like,
tapping
I
out.
don't like. I think
But-
I take that when I'm stuffy.
that's right.
But the thing is about this film, there's no exposition.
Yeah.
They don't hold your hand or really.
That's
there's
true.
No narration.
Nope.
So you don't really need to know character names. You know, good guy, bad
yeah,
guy.
I mean, there's the
love
characters.
interest,
There's few
mother.
enough that I
Yeah.
know who they are when I see them.
Right.
But I couldn't tell you their names.
Sure. No,
But-
I don't think you're. I mean,
But I will say, it makes me feel better about myself as a person that I don't know their names.
Why?
Well, because I always struggle with knowing like names I'm not familiar with.
Sure.
Culturally speaking,
We've seen
And-
you try to pronounce some names on the show.
Yeah, and I'm like, am I racist? And I'm like, but now I'm like, oh, I can't say either. And that's like, you don't get any whiter than that. Like these people are super white.
Why do you have 7 consonants in a row?
Yeah,
That's dumb. Don't do that.
Yeah, what did they had they not invented vowels in 895 VD? But 80
a
VD?
different language, though.
But so anyway, they're really white, and I don't get that either. So I feel better about myself.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's the little things.
yeah,
Yeah. So the kid, our main character, kind of sees his dad slaughtered. Tries to fight back a little bit, but it's useless. So he takes off. The brother sends like one of his henchmen after the kid. The kid ends up fighting back and like scratching his face, which I think is a great
He
callback.
cuts his nose off.
Oh, that's right.
He Chinatowns him.
He does Chinatown, which I think that callback is great later.
Yeah, I love how the rest of the movie, you know who that guy is. Don't know his name, but you know that guy.
Yeah, no nose Nanette.
No nose Neil flip. So the kid runs back to the village and he sees.
Do they just not have? Do they just not have infections yet? Like, how does this
That's
guy
a great
not just
point.
die? Like every time I saw
Give him a
somebody
month.
take a wound, I'm like, well, you would just die from an infection.
Right, they would
I
put
mean,
they
I-
would put maggots on your wound, hoping it would not.
Right.
You know, yeah.
I'm like, it's just an infection's going to take.
I'm
you out.
guessing that guy took a hot iron to the face to like.
Seal it up.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
otherwise, how would you?
Right.
Well, you don't want to be around that guy in cold and flu season.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, the way he gets it though. Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, thank God they didn't have COVID. How the mask would never stay on.
Well, with that guy, you won't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So he takes off back to the village and he sees just
The brothers
a
carrying
massacre,
the mother queen away.
which is like.
I love the way that's filmed. That shot's
So,
awesome.
right,
It follows
like,
him
yeah.
down under as he's sneaking.
It's a beautiful-
and you
it's
see
a
the
beautifully
legs
shot-
walking and like it shows everything.
He's like
but
under the
from-
huts, right?
But yeah, from a different
Yeah.
angle. Yeah, it follows the kid climbing underneath the buildings, and you still see the brother and Nicole. Kidman. Like you see the legs and everything, and then basically no nose nipple flying says
That's going on a t-shirt.
is like he's like yeah, we've killed him.
Right,
It's
right,
good,
right.
Because the brother's like, yeah, we don't want any of these little
Yeah, we
revenge
don't want
seekers
revenge
running
seekers
around.
co- right.
So he's like, yeah, he's dead in the bottom of the sea.
I threw him over the thing.
So it's really interesting because there's for the Hamlet and all the Hamlet inspirations, there are so many different layers of like adapted from like Lion King is Hamlet,
Oh.
but Hamlet is this story, right? And so
Strange Brew is Hamlet.
yeah, but there's so many
What?
layers.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Why do you think the brewery was called Elsinore?
I didn't even put that together until you just said that.
Well, there's so many different
Yeah,
adaptations,
it's-
but But so what's interesting is this movie takes a lot of the really well-known things from all these different adaptations. But I really like what they did with this story because
Pull the John Carter.
Yeah, but what that's Edgar Rice Burroughs.
It
who
is.
did Tarzan.
Yep.
So that's interesting. What they really do with this story, I like how they consolidate it, because Hamlet's a 6-hour play.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so back and forth with, I think this guy killed my dad, but I got to find out. Let's do all this stuff, and let's go to England, and let's
It's
do
a lot more thinky.
Yeah,
This one's like, hey, I saw him cut my dad's head off.
But that's what I appreciate,
Right.
though, right? Is that there's so much going back and forth with, like, the uncle's advisor is the dad to the girlfriend, and then he's got
And I think that's a good thing to remember about Shakespeare. When people kind of some people, and I'm not a big Shakespeare guy because I just can't get past the language, you know.
Sure.
Like but the stories themselves, if you read the plots, are great.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people get dismissive of Shakespeare in that they're like, well, he just stole all these other stories. I'm like, well, he did and he didn't. Right?
Sure.
Like, it's like you see the pared down version of Hamlet, and there's a lot that he added to it. He used that as a jumping off point, and then he was just really good at fan fiction.
Yeah. But so when you look at that story and say, okay, that's a 6-hour play, and they do all this back and forth, but really you skip over 3 or 4 hours of the play by him seeing the uncle kill the dad.
Right.
You don't have to do all this, let's
Right.
catch them, let's do all this sneaky stuff and hear them doing this and see him praying and admitting, setting up fake plays to see if the guy reacts a certain way to, oh, that's the same way I killed his dad. Now that got me rattled, right? So, and I'm not saying that stuff's not great if you're into it and you want
Right.
to watch a 6-hour play, but what Eggers did here, this is co-written by the guy that did Lamb, which is another A24
Was that the
movie that
Numi
just came
Rapace
out.
one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Talk about a weird movie.
right. So
That-
the co-writer of the writer of that co-wrote with Eggers on this. It's the name of the writer is S.J. O with a little thing over it N.
Well, that
It's
explains a little bit.
So I just
It's an umlaut.
yes. Well, I don't.
So
think
if he's
so.
listening, he's really upset with me
Right,
now
yeah.
about my whole I don't get the names.
Yeah. So
I
what
just call somebody Steve.
but they pared down all of what makes those stories great and interesting and exciting.
Yeah.
Like boiled it all down to a 2-hour revenge movie.
Basically,
So the whole thing is him. But
All
what,
killer, no filler.
that's all.
Yeah.
It's oh yeah.
but what Hamlet doesn't do.
That's what it says on Eggers' business card.
But with Hamlet and with even this original story, it's all about like Hamlet is like, oh, I have to pretend to be crazy, or oh, I have to pretend to be dumb so that my uncle won't kill me, thinking that I will usurp him. But in this movie, it's like he runs away. And that's what they do in Lion King.
Yeah.
That's how
Oh,
Lion,
that's true.
That's
Yeah.
how Lion King.
Yeah, you're right.
consolidates the story.
You're right,
So
you're right.
this movie did what Lion King did, which is not part of the original story. So I think that's interesting how he took what streamlined Lion King. I'm not saying he totally copied it, but there are
No, it makes sense,
there are
though.
plot beats
Yeah.
where the character of Hamlet or whoever's supposed to be Hamlet sees these things and it's like, cool, yeah, now I'm just going to go get revenge.
Yeah.
And so you skip this whole part
Timon
about
and Pumbaa show up in this movie.
that Lion King 1.5 is awesome. That Rosencrantz and Guildenstern or whatever.
Yeah.
Which are from Hamlet.
Disney Plus.
Yeah. So that's if you have not seen Lion King 1.5, it is not just your like straight to video lower quality.
Right.
Like it's hilarious the way that they followed those characters. So there was a movie about them with Gary Oldman, right?
Rosencrantz.
Guildenstern are
there's
dead.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. It's an off-Broadway play written
Yeah.
by Tom Stoppard, who would go on to write Shakespeare in Love.
Ah.
And so it's Hamlet. So in Hamlet, there are two characters. They're palace guards, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and the ongoing. They're the comic relief in Hamlet because God knows you need some. And the joke is that nobody can tell them apart. Nobody can remember which is Rosencrantz and which one is Guildenstern, and to the point that like towards the end they don't even remember anymore. And it's just silliness. So Tom Stoppard wrote this play called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, and it's very artsy, but it's also really funny, but it's also really sad. And so it's Hamlet from the point of view of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Okay,
right?
okay.
And so they take Rosencrantz and Guildenstern and make them tragic figures. Like they're having this existential crisis about who they actually are. Meanwhile, Hamlet has been reduced to the comic relief. And so
Oh, weird.
But the way it's done is they'll show you scenes from Hamlet, right? And like he has not changed a word, but it plays really funny because of the things he does around it. And I thought the movie just didn't really capture what the stage version did. But
I've never seen the
And
play.
Gary Oldman's in the movie.
yeah, and but it's fascinating to watch this play out. Is like these are minor characters which are a joke, and they end up keep being at key scenes.
Yeah.
So now to bring it full circle to things you'll understand.
Yeah.
Tag and Bink are dead is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern for Star Wars.
Oh.
So they use the motif of stormtroopers, palace guards, and they can pretend any stormtrooper is theoretically Tag and Bink, right? Because you don't know who's inside the thing. So the joke there is that they're in all these key spots in the Star Wars story.
Yep.
And it's really funny.
They do that with Family Guy.
Yeah.
They do that with Phineas and Ferb. It's all the same concept, is that our characters in our shows were little background characters
in these guys'
watching the
life.
thing play out,
Yeah.
and they're actually doing things that make the story for the main character work. Like they're doing
they've accidentally had a major impact on the story that you're seeing. You just didn't
know until you saw
realize it
So-
was happening.
So anyway, so that's why Lion King in 1.5 is so clever, because Lion King is Hamlet, and then so you've already got this other play on the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern characters, so why not make Timon and Pumbaa those characters?
And Disney's like, we got it.
So there's this whole other part of Hamlet where, like, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are traveling with Hamlet, and the evil uncle is telling the King of England or the King of the Britons to kill Hamlet, but then he rewrites the letter and says kill those guys, right? And so there's this whole thing going on where we completely avoid all that. And send him off. He runs away. He comes back as an adult.
Yeah, he comes back as this werewolf. I say werewolf, but they're like this pack of wolves. Basically, they're marauders. I don't really know what else, because they're not fighting for anyone. Like, they're fighting for themselves and for their own supplies and things like that. So it's not like
I just see them as Viking warriors.
And I say werewolves because they're wearing wolf skin on top of their head,
and they are transforming spiritually into them, right?
Yeah. It gives them that extra animalistic.
Yeah, they do a ritual where I think even the lead guy is like, you are now wolves. You are becoming wolves for this fight. And when they go into the village, they just howl and butcher, and I think that's also their way to kind of disconnect from what they're doing.
Probably,
they're
that makes
representing.
sense.
You're an animal. You're just going in there and you are
your instincts.
taking your territory, being the alpha, whatever that is. So you see him tear up this village.
Yeah,
great action sequence.
almost single-handedly.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, when he catches that spear
That
and
was
throws it
dope.
back, that's a cool move.
Oh man, that was good
First
stuff.
thing you see action-wise in this movie,
I just wonder how long it takes before this guy ends up in the DC, whatever the DC movies are, or the Marvel movies.
Eggers?
No, hell no.
I was like, I just don't see him.
No, Skarsgård. He looks. Look at the guy.
Yeah.
I think he's. If you were to put him next to Jason Momoa, he's probably bigger than Momoa. I think he's taller. For sure.
He's 6'4". He's pretty. This movie, he did
He
quite
is
the workout
jacked.
regimen. He's smaller, obviously, than a Schwarzenegger, like a Conan type, whatever. But the way he carries himself, I'm looking at that posture, and I sat up a little bit. I said, "Oh my gosh," because he's so big, and the way he doesn't have the size, width-wise, of Schwarzenegger, right? So he can't just be there and be like, "Oh yeah, that guy's huge."
Right.
But so he carries himself with his traps up the whole time, his neck forward, and so he's constantly looking like that. So
I don't think we're ever gonna get that. Look, Schwarzenegger was 1 in a million.
Sure.
A billion, probably. You're never going to get another guy to look like that has
the acting.
Well, okay, he's not the best actor in the world.
He's
but
charismatic.
He has
he
a
had
presence.
that thing, though,
yes,
right?
he had that
He had-
X factor that you need. So I don't think we'll ever get that guy again.
But we're getting close. John Cena, Batista, those guys
Yeah,
that are
that's
huge,
fair.
but also do have the acting, because you would know better than anyone. Ding ding. But look at it's sports entertainment for a reason. That's
you call it that. That's fine.
what.
I don't call it that.
Oh,
It's professional wrestling.
okay, but the storylines.
Yeah.
and
I totally agree with you.
The clashes, but they build up to a fight with a month of this backstabbing and all that. So I mean, these guys are actors, and the ones that graduate from that become The Rock and
Cena and Batista,
right?
yeah.
So like
Hulk Hogan.
they hone their skills, and really you get a lot of talent out of them. They become big stars. So
Yeah.
we're getting that, but you're right. Like just pure bodybuilders that have that kind of size. That
that 80s body.
Ferrigno was
Lou
another one,
Ferrigno's a
right?
great example, yeah. But like the medically enhanced, actually, okay. I was gonna say that The Rock isn't taking something to get that big. I'm gonna call bullshit. There's no way. There's no way you get that big without
He's a big guy.
a little bit of help.
Yeah. I mean, but he works hard, obviously.
Totally.
So there's no doubt.
Yep.
But yeah.
I agree. So they pillage this village, and I guess he hears through like the grapevine, like somebody says something that his uncle kind of lost his village, and now he's kind of living on his own.
Yeah, which this is completely original too. So I like that they took kind of the outline of these stories, we'll just call them the Hamlet stories, because that's what people most famously know from this. But they would pick and choose these different adaptations, and then sometimes they made it more interesting because it's like, yeah, this guy killed the king, took over the village,
but still didn't get what he wanted.
Yeah, but then he still
Or was
ended up,
still a garbage leader that he's like, even though he did all this backstabbing,
and then he
still
just lost.
it.
Yeah, which I think is a really interesting thing. You don't
Yeah.
see that. So then he moves to Iceland and becomes I wouldn't say king, but he's a farmer.
They
but-
call him a chieftain.
Yeah,
at one
chieftain.
point.
Okay, yeah, he's like the lord of these lands.
of this tiny
but-
little village.
But yeah, he's got a small village. They all do farming, and he's definitely been humbled since his days of being in that king world.
And Skarsgård realizes this is his opportunity. This is his opportunity to exact the revenge that he needs. And so he disguises himself as a slave and they know that they're going to this Icelandic village. So he disguises himself as a slave. Is this where he meets Anya Taylor-Joy?
It is.
On the
And
boat?
It is. Let me tell you, this guy's slick for a 6'4", 250-pound dude. He swims up. He just hops up on the boat and sneaks on, puts a little cloak over him. Like,
And
dude,
nobody
this guy's
notices this guy, right?
on a tiny boat.
A boat that if he...
Not a boat with two levels.
Yeah, a boat that if he grabbed the ledge of it, he's flipping the boat over.
I just thought that was, it was just funny that no one in this small space heard.
The only one that notices is her.
Yeah.
Right? She was like, we know. All right.
But okay, so let's say all the other guys were distracted and whatever. To be fair, the rest of the people are slaves going to be sold, so they're not exactly
Right,
like
whatever.
hey, what's this guy doing over here? They're like, is this guy here to rescue us?
Right,
So
right.
I get why they wouldn't. It's just funny.
It is funny.
Okay.
I agree. And like it's funny when they get to the scene where they line up like the male slaves. He's easily 4 inches taller than all of them. He's not wearing a shirt, obviously, and he's ripped. And all these other guys are like, "Hey, can pick that guy." Just why are we having this discussion?
I think I get you want a slave that's going to be strong, but you don't want a slave that's going to be too strong, right?
That was my biggest thought. My biggest problem with it is you're keeping that guy,
Right.
Well, I was
that guy.
thinking-
Promise you won't hurt us,
Right,
Yeah.
right. I was thinking they were gonna.
Plus, he's going to cost you a fortune in protein
You
shakes.
gotta feed him. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? He gets that big just by eating?
Yeah. He's getting all the creatine.
Grass,
It's going to be a lot.
HGH.
Yeah.
So he ends up back on this island.
They keep Anya Taylor-Joy and a couple other people to work in the house and the kitchen and everything.
Yeah.
And
Have they they've not made the pact yet, right?
no,
That comes a little bit later.
Mhm.
Okay. So they pick obviously Skarsgård to stay behind, and initially he's just kind of going.
he does kind of tell her though. I just was when they're
right?
walking in chains, she does start being like, "What are you doing here?" Or she goes, "Why would you disguise to be a slave?"
Yeah.
In not those words, but basically what the hell are you doing here? You purposefully got yourself trapped. And then he just straight up spills the
Like,
beans.
I'm gonna kill him.
He's like, I've been wrong. Everything was stolen from me, and I know where to get it back.
And I do like where she's like, with your brawn and my brains, we can run this town. And that's kind of what they do. He devises a plan where he's not going to go after the king immediately, because now we see.
Well, because Bjork gave him a vision.
Is that who that was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, at least we know how to say her name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bjork. We could do that.
So
one.
here's the deal: if you're going to have a weird name, you have to have a hit single.
That's totally fair.
Seems fair.
That seems fair.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, just while we're laying down rules, I get to be the arbiter of what's weird.
Oh, okay.
Right?
And where does Bjork fall?
she had a hit single. I'll allow it.
Very good. Very good. So yeah, what was the?
So he's basically like there's been a prophecy. He's had these visions, and that's where it kind of gets like into Hamlet and the ghost of his father visiting him. So he's seeing visions, but this is more like Norse gods.
When does he see the shaman? And like he goes and.
When he goes to get the sword.
That's what it is. Okay.
But before this, basically, there's this prophecy that he's going to get his revenge and find this weapon, but he's not going to kill his uncle until he's surrounded by flames or whatever.
Yeah, but he says you're gonna
fight
have
in a lake of fire, like Nirvana.
Yeah. But you're gonna have to make a choice. It's either your revenge or your heirs. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, initially you think, okay, that means he's gonna have to choose between like his mother or brother, his now like half brother, or killing everybody. And I was like, well, it's all right.
No, they tricked you.
They did. It was good job. Good job.
Robert Eggers isn't just spelling it
that's
out for
true.
you in the
That's
first 10
true.
minutes.
Yeah,
that's
fair. So he decides. So he goes to see this. He finds this other shaman, and the shaman says, "Look, I was waiting. I've been waiting for you to get here." He tells him where the sword is. He's like, "But there's somebody else that wants to talk to you."
Hey, you might know this guy.
And he like he's a magician. I guess he kind of is, and like flips this tarp back, and there's the head of Willem Dafoe from earlier.
And basically, in the first scene, we see that Willem Dafoe is a jester, and so he is like making fun of the king and saying bad things about the queen, and the brother's like, the fuck? What are you letting this guy do? And he's like, no, he's a friend, and obviously he's like a spiritual advisor more than just a jester.
Well, and his joke was basically like, yeah, these two are doing it.
Oh, the uncle and the yeah,
because he's like, oh, your cup is more wet for the brother than for the king.
Right.
And then the uncle was like, hey, Ixnay on the OC pen.
Hey, Marilyn Monroe, you want to knock it off? Jesus.
So anyway, he's like, yeah, they basically like plucked his eyes out and did all this
tortured
stuff
him
because the brother was not too fond of the jester.
Yes. But doesn't he use the head?
He cuts his hair off, throws it in the fire, and then he basically like speaks through. It's Willem Dafoe's character speaking through the new shaman.
That's right.
But he knows everything. So like this movie, what I like is it feels grounded as like a historical Viking type movie would be. But they throw in the gods because the people worship the gods, and then you get this supernatural type stuff. But it doesn't take you out of it. It doesn't feel like, oh, now we're going to some weird magical sci-fi-ville. You know what I mean? Like
it's
they
not
work
like
in the super.
As much as Hamlet, this is Yorick, right? That's
what I think, right?
The last poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio.
Yeah.
This is as much as I love The Green Knight, which I think was a fantastic movie. Like that does kind of like step it up to the fantastical, where this one it doesn't. Right?
Yeah, right. They're different. I'm not saying you have to compare these two movies.
No.
I preferred The Green Knight over this.
We're ordering you.
Oh, okay.
Do it right now.
I liked both these movies.
Or I'll declare your name weird.
Okay.
But you got to have a hit single.
We all know you don't got a hit single.
I liked both these movies a lot. I like The Green Knight more, but they're different movies. So I liked the Green Knight is more like, I mean, it's based on a poem. It's more of a like artistic interpretation of, where this movie is a straight up revenge movie.
Yes.
There is not a lot you have to read into it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an art house movie, but he's basically there. You know what he's doing to get his revenge.
Right. It's not so art house that you can't like the action stuff. Like if you came for action,
you're going to get it.
Just sit through.
Right.
Like you'll be fine. Like you're going to get plenty of action, but just on the way out, just to really make you be like, art house, here's the guys.
A digital.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, because they did not. I guess Skarsgård was worried about the swords and everything, and they were just like, and Eggers was like, okay, fine.
He's like, I've already been circumcised once.
Yeah, I don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
No more off the top. Thank you very much.
So he gets the sword.
There's
a cool fight. Now, I couldn't quite follow because they looked so similar. Was that a different guy fighting, or did he just visualize himself fighting?
I thought it was like a vision.
Was that Skarsgård, or was that like the guy like an ancestor fighting the huge knight?
Oh,
I couldn't tell because like
I thought it was like he was having a vision of him fighting the huge knight.
Right, like he did, like, because then he walks up and it's like,
that's a cool. I like that scene a lot.
I like it a lot too, but I couldn't tell if that was actually him or if he was like seeing another person fight him. I don't know. The way it was shot, I was a little bit
thought it was him,
here.
and he was having a vision of fighting like the zombie.
But he basically passed whatever that spiritual thing was, and then he defeated him So yeah,
goes back to the village. Like I do like where he's just like, in 900 AD or whatever, you can just hide a sword on a roof, just cover it up with hay, and nobody's the wiser.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where he
have
and
metal detectors.
that's true. Yeah. He and Anya Taylor-Joy kind of devise the plan where he's like, I'm not going to go right after him, right? Like my mom is here. Like
we should say his half brothers. He's got two half brothers,
and one of them,
and those guys are.
I gotta tell you,
that older one.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, what's the kid?
He does a real
Game of Thrones.
Oh, the Joffrey.
Yeah, I was like, hey, Joffrey.
I was gonna say
dial it back
that's
a little
like
bit.
a Draco Joffrey. Like that guy does a great job of making you wanting not Hamlet to dispense of him real quick.
Right.
When's that guy getting his?
Can that guy die,
that
please?
guy, I really love what they do here. So when Skarsgård shows up at the farm and the brother, he's like looking at the brother, and the brother's like, don't ever look at me in the eyes. And they this weakest little punch on him. They don't like boost the sound effects or anything. It's
like
literally like he does nothing.
Yeah,
to Skarsgård.
right.
And then he just has to like look down. Like, yeah, okay.
You got. Oh, I'm so hurt.
But
you got me.
But he's going to get it at some point. But he's awful. He is just awful.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where you think Skarsgård's going to take out the uncle, but he can't unsheath his sword. But that's part of the prophecy is like this isn't the right place. Like it wouldn't let him.
Yeah, which I think is kind of an interesting like little Norse like magic thing. Yeah. There's not there are some wackadoo scenes about like going on trips and stuff, but like the idea that the sword can't be used unless it's time to use it. I thought that was pretty cool.
It's basically just getting stuck, but you're reading into it as this belief that it's not the right time. And also the prophecy with the shaman, it's like the sword is thirsty. It's forged from this rare iron, whatever. But the sword is thirsty, so he has to basically
adamantium.
He has to build it up with this blood.
Yeah.
Skarsgård is a bit of a thirst trap.
You ain't lying.
There you go. So he's going around. And he decides, okay, I'm going to basically turn my uncle's world into a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, first he ingratiates. That's the right word, right?
Yeah.
Where like they're at this game. I don't know what game this was. Basically, beat the out of your opponents. I don't know what this game was, but you've got one kingdom's kinda. Yeah,
it's like rugby.
It is like rugby.
Meaner.
Yeah, like lacrosse.
Yeah.
You've got one side from one kingdom and the other side from the other kingdom, and it comes down to Skarsgård and the mountain, basically. And at one point, I think the little brother runs onto the field, and Skarsgård realizes what's going to happen, and you think it's a moment of him being like, this is my brother, like I have to protect him. But in reality, he's like, well, if I jump in front of this guy and kill the big guy, they're going to love me for it.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. And he beats the bejesus out of this guy and squishes his face.
Yeah.
And because he has done that, he has earned the trust of his uncle, and he allows him to like have a leadership role with the slaves. And Anya Taylor-Joy kind of joins him as well. Like he's like, you can pick a woman, and he was like, that one. So they're starting to devise the plan where he's like, I'm not going to kill him right away. I'm going to turn his world upside down.
After the victory, there's a celebration, and he goes off with Anya Taylor-Joy, who he doesn't know where
they do some celebrating.
Oh, they do.
And that's when he really talks to her about the plan. And
this is my brains and your brawn will take this guy.
Well, she has a line where she's like, I use my cunning to, and I was like, and then she never does.
Well, she does with the mushrooms.
She tricks him with the poison, the mushrooms,
everyone starts tripping because she used the mushrooms to poison them.
Yeah.
And so that's where she shows him a mushroom, puts it in his hand, and he sees it. So they take those and then they put that in the stew for the next night, and all the guards eat them.
Well, no, doesn't he kill? He kills those guards and then like strings them up because that's
true.
That's the brother,
first
the
one,
brother's friends, and he puts them up and he's like writing messages with their body parts. And then the next night, yes, you're right. He poisons the brother.
They wait a night because he says not tonight. It was supposed to be that night, but then
he's like, "Whoa, pump the brakes, baby!" Like
we already got one for today. Let's wait.
They poison the brother, not Joffrey, and then what is it after he does something? Because now they think
if
the
by
gods.
Poison you mean shoves a sword through his chest twice, then yes.
Oh. Then who do they poison?
He runs his sword through the brother's chest, picks it up, and plunges
there's
it again.
something else. It doesn't matter, but there's something else in between there because now the king believes that there's like the gods are pissed at them and they've got like this beast in the woods. So they've got this scene at night.
He howls and gets all the wolves and literally sends an entire pack of wolves to start,
doing some bad stuff.
And like the dog, the dog that lives with the uncle and Nicole Kidman is like gone crazed and starts attacking them, and all this stuff is starting to happen where but also it's kind of like this kind of started happening when that dude showed up. the big warrior looking dude,
the guy who said he'll be fine.
I did think it was a little interesting how they didn't pick up on it a little quicker, but
so I think this is a really cool scene here where it's obviously pitch black and you've only got like these like canisters of fire like spread out, and this is where all of the guards are tripping.
And the guy takes a knife and starts shoving it in his neck.
That was crazy. And Skarsgård comes out of the darkness and stabs and guts the brother, and then disappears back into the darkness. And because everybody was under the influence, they saw a wolf. Like that's what they saw, right? Because was he not wearing the?
He wasn't wearing that in this scene. No.
Oh, okay.
But basically, they think this is all because the gods are angry and all this. And so, like, they try to have a ritual where they're going to sacrifice a woman.
Yeah.
And there's this healer-type person. And then when all this craziness happens, Skarsgård goes and takes another person, like, disembowels him and hangs him upside down over where there was going to be that sacrifice. And so everything is getting all screwed up.
Yeah.
And the uncle is kind of onto it, like, these aren't my gods doing this. He knows something's up.
And I think finally we get to the point where Skarsgård discusses with Taylor-Joy, like, I have to talk to my mom. Like, I don't have a choice here. I have to do it.
Well, he's like, you're gonna run away and meet me. We're gonna meet you after all this stuff goes down.
Right.
So he goes to find his mom to tell her.
Does he? Oh, sure. Yes. You're right. And this is where we get the reveal that Nicole Kidman, who plays his mother, wants to
bang him. Oh, sorry.
Well, and I got to tell you, in a movie like this, wouldn't be too far from what actually may have happened.
That's what she says.
That's true. That's true. She does say that. Yeah.
And this is where we get the big reveal that this isn't a part of the Hamlet story. So
this is more Oedipus Rex.
Yeah, I mean, that's
really?
When you think of Oedipus complex, that's definitely
where it comes from. He ends up sleeping with his mother unknowingly.
But he doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
Which that is just that's so messed up.
Like
Which
Old
is
Boy.
No, I was gonna say don't spoil it, but that is the idea of that is from Oedipus.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. See, nothing is original.
Joe. Oh no, I totally like. But then we get something like last week where it's just like
no, I don't.
Yeah.
It's still original. Like this movie's still original in its own right. It's just that it's interesting to know what has inspired these things.
Sure.
But this is the big reveal where I didn't see this coming.
This is a good twist.
And it isn't part of Hamlet when you think, this is pretty much the story of Hamlet. And
we find out that Nicole Kidman set everything up.
Yeah.
And she wanted the husband, like Ethan. It's interesting because they did kind of position Ethan Hawke as like this good king and loved his family. Maybe that wasn't the case.
Well, that's
maybe he loved his son, but...
Yeah, I think he truly did. When you see that in the beginning, but I did think he was a little cold to Nicole Kidman in the beginning, and I didn't realize why it was. I thought it was just like, my time is coming to a close. I'm dying. I need to tell my son like he's going to be the next king and all this stuff. But I didn't realize that maybe he really didn't care about her. And we find out she shows him that she was a slave.
Yeah, yeah. They all have this like little like, brand.
Brand.
Yeah.
They're branded.
Yeah, like a Nike swoosh. So she says like you were just a casualty. Like I didn't really love you. Like you were brought into this world out of like hate.
Well, yeah, because basically since the king, took her as a slave and it wasn't really love, so she didn't see him
as a child. But like her other two sons are products of love, and she loves the uncle, and
it's a hard moment. This guy's whole world is flipped upside down here.
And now, because his entire world is based on his father dying.
I was saving her, and she doesn't want to be saved.
That's one of his three things. He's like, I will get my revenge. I will save you, mother.
And I'll get my kingdom back or something. Yeah. And it's interesting that they play that scene that we saw in the beginning of the movie two different ways, right? So when we see the beginning, it looks like she's fighting because she's like draped over the shoulder of the brother and looks like she's kicking and screaming and trying to fight away. And she's like, no, I was ecstatic because your father was gone and we were going to have this life.
I wasn't yelling. I was laughing.
Yeah.
I'm like, God. I was like, that's a cold moment.
And now he's got a choice. And he ends up killing his mother.
Yeah,
right?
but later on, so he basically he lets her go, and he tells,
that's right.
He tells
right.
Olga, he says, "I'll never harm or kill a woman, even no matter what she does."
And this is where he says, I think, does he touch her belly? And then we find out that Olga is pregnant with a baby, twins.
Twins.
And he's like, okay, let's just go. Like, we'll just get out. And like, all hell's breaking loose in this village already. So like that's already rolling downhill at this point. So he's like, let's just get out of here.
Yeah, they basically were going to run away.
We'll get on this boat. We'll have this life. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
And so this is where we realize the heir that he was talking, you can choose between your revenge or your heir, was his children.
Yeah.
And he says, I have to go back. Like, if I stay here, they're going to keep coming back, and they'll never be in peace. We should say that No-No's Nifleflip literally slowly takes a knife, like a sword, it's not a knife, through his nose.
Right through the nose
Like,
hole.
right through the, the nose flap.
Which is
whatever's,
now,
I guess that's true, whatever was left. And I was like,
He only has
damn.
the one nostril, and it's really big.
It looks like Jigsaw.
Yeah.
Not the Punisher villain, not
So
the...
he gets his.
We've
We've
pull
been
out boogers the size of grapes.
Right. Does he kill? So he kills Nicole Kidman off screen?
No, on screen. So what happens, the way I took it, is she kind of falls on his sword. So he didn't like straight up go and chop her head off or anything.
Right.
She wanted to fall on that sword.
Yeah, she did.
I mean, but yeah, she basically says like, hey, but if you kill
them all, and then we'll run
and then
this.
yeah, where you're just like, oh,
he was
no.
like, no.
He doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. That was
no,
weird. But,
thank you.
so
another read on that though is that look what that world holds for women.
That's true.
You're gonna kind of maybe flit from guy to guy.
Yeah, just trying to survive.
Keep your station safe.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So anyway, he
son or not.
Right.
Yeah.
He swims back, starts tearing up the whole village, and then the uncle tells Nicole Kidman, he's like, keep you guys hide, don't come out no matter what.
Oh, sure.
And then he leaves, and what do? Is not hide.
Yeah,
when
right,
Alexander
yeah,
Skarsgård
right.
shows up. Nicole Kidman lunges at him with a sword,
and he just kind of
slices him a couple
turns.
times. And
Yeah.
he turns basically and lets her fall on his sword,
Right.
essentially. And then the little kid is up on his back, stabbing him with a dagger, and just by instinct, he just
flips
throws him
that kid,
off
and slices him up.
across. So then the uncle comes right back. It's like, man, you could have maybe shouldn't have left 3 minutes earlier, because you literally just came right back.
Right.
He left. They die. He comes back and sees them, and he just like stops. He doesn't fight Skarsgård, and just like picks them up, and
he says, "I'll meet you." And I guess Skarsgård
At the
gates of hell, which is this volcano that this island is based around, and it's about to blow. And this is I think this is a cool fight scene too, where they both strip down to their nothingness and they fight in the pits of hell, and it's
cool,
and they're burning while they're fighting, like, so they're just trying to kill the other before they're engulfed in flames.
That other dude is ripped too. I didn't.
They
realize,
both were,
but you don't see, like, he's an older dude and he doesn't have his shirt off at all throughout
it's the
the rest of the
300
movie.
thing. I was like, come on, those 300 Spartans were not that ripped, right?
I think these guys were, though.
I mean, I don't know how you can be. It's not like you don't see them lifting weights.
Yeah, but they're like climbing up the side of.
I guess that's
castles,
true.
but your muscles would form in a different way.
That's
like
fair.
That's
fair.
visually what we think of nowadays, but that's sculpted.
That's true.
Through
a lot of guys would be
through
big,
weight
like,
training.
just-
They might be big and have muscles.
I think
for
they would.
sure,
I think
but,
they look like the mountain.
but it wouldn't be defined like that.
I get what you mean.
Right.
Oh,
They
sure.
wouldn't be
There's
shredded.
a difference between strength training and weightlifting.
Right.
That's fair.
No, you're
That's
right. I do agree that in real life that they would probably be a little bit.
Because even look back as recently as like the Superman TV show.
Which one?
Like the original.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to them that was jacked.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The barrel chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was because that's what strong guys look
at
like.
old weightlifters from the black and white photos,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
they're not ripped like Schwarzenegger. They're like big dudes that ate
because,
a
I
ton.
mean, even the wrestlers.
Because there's
Sure. Same deal.
bodybuilding and then there's weightlifting. They're
Right.
totally different things. Like the guy that plays Jack Reacher, I read an article with him and he was talking about how he's like, I look really strong, and he's like, but I'm not. He's like, if I go into a gym, I mean, he's strong, like,
right? Stronger than
but,
us.
But he's like, if I go into a gym, he's like, there are guys that don't look like this, and he's like, but they will outbench press me in a heartbeat because he's like, they wanted me to look a certain way, and so
He did it.
I sculpted I worked out and sculpted my body to look a certain way, but like if I wanted to be strong, I wouldn't be training the way I'm training.
That guy was Aquaman on Smallville,
Yeah.
and he is significantly smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
big time. Like if you go back and look at him on Smallville, you're like,
Oh wow.
whoa. Yeah, so this
That's
is
a cool
a
showdown.
pretty ridiculous fight sequence.
Can you imagine if you I want to work in special effects on films.
Yeah.
And you go to college and you finally get a job. Mama, Dad, I'm working on this big film. I'm gonna do on the special effects. It's so exciting.
It's a Robert Eggers movie.
And then you show up the first day and they're like, put a on this guy. I don't think this is flopping around just right. I think if this guy got punched in the head, his would flop in a different way.
Can you make that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Someone's gotta do
can.
it.
You need to go in the bathroom and just kind of flop it around.
Can you get a visual aid,
and
please?
see which way it flops and then come back here.
Go talk to Alexander. Have him do it for you, and then we'll just bring it on back.
But it's a cool fight sequence. The uncle has him dead to rights, but then he gets some kind of vision and his strength comes back to him, and he, gets that last adrenaline boost to kill the uncle, chops his head off, it rolls onto the ground.
Which I think was cool.
But they kill each other.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
uncle
he gets,
stabs him through
stabbed.
the chest,
Right.
and he cuts the uncle's head off. So
Yes.
they're both dead, but you do see him, entering Valhalla. He sees the gates.
We do see, we saw that at one point. I was like, oh, cool, a different Valkyrie. That doesn't look like Tessa Thompson. That's weird.
That was a cool scene when he's saved, though, and really it's Olga came back and rescued him. He
brought him back.
put him on a horse somehow. I'm just like, I don't know how that happened.
Because she's a witch.
Yeah, but getting 250-pound Skarsgård on the back of a horse,
Right.
knocked out. I don't know how that happens.
Dead
but whatever.
weight.
It
Dead
happened.
weight, yeah.
And but his vision is him flying on a Valkyrie towards the gates of Valhalla. So I thought that was kind of it was a
I
cool
think it's
visual.
awesome.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
Though we see it and you see his lineage. You
That
see
looks
the
like something that would have been on the side of somebody's van in 1974.
But you see
It was like an Emerson, Lake and Palmer album cover.
Exactly it. Yeah, it was an Asia poster.
Yeah.
But he sees his family, he sees the tree again, and
Yeah.
sees the two kids above him. So he knows that his bloodline's going to carry forward.
Right. And that's how this one ends. I love the original Conan. I love that movie. And this was a nice little art house Conan movie. And I was like, yeah.
It's not little, though.
That's true.
I mean, this is a big movie.
This is a big movie.
There's a lot on that screen.
I like it, though. I really like how they took the story of, I'm going to say Hamlet, even though I know this was the original that it's really more based on, but they took that story and really condensed it down to its most primal and basic concepts of you killed my father, prepare to die.
Right.
I mean, it's just really just a revenge movie. It's a Viking revenge movie, and it's got great action. It's filmed on location in Iceland.
Beautiful.
It looks good.
Yeah.
Skarsgård is there, showed up, jacked. He did the work. I mean, he's intimidating. And yeah, it's an exhilarating movie, and those action sequences are great.
Yeah,
so
it was really good.
If you feel them, when he hits them with a sword, you feel that impact.
Yeah.
it feels realistic.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Awesome. Well, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table, and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at JoeyButts, BUTTS21.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And this is Tom. You can follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at Facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online, Facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, don't forget our Patreon, Patreon.com/Real Spoilers. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, 'cause we already warned you.